mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Hello, friends. Welcome back to the show. My guest today is my dear friend, Katie Henry. We met more than 10 years ago at the OMG Cancer Summit for Young Adults, Stupid Cancer's flagship annual trade show. At the time, she was working for one of our nonprofit partners called Living Beyond Breast Cancer. And I'll let her tell the story because I can't possibly do it justice, but I'll just give you a little hint. So, spoiler alert, it's dildos. She's also one of the nerdiest, awesome people I know, and she transitioned over to Big Pharma, but she's going to drop her business card here on the show because there's so many more interesting things for her to talk about and to opine upon, and my God, does she have opinions. And that's a good thing. So prepare yourself for the one and the only Katie Henry. I'm Matthew Zachary, and this is Out of Patience. All right, speak up, and you're a loud person. Pretend I'm your kid and you're yelling at me.
I don't yell.
You don't yell?
Gentle parent.
No.
I can get the mom voice out, though.
All right, get the mom voice out. Or I just ate dirt, yell at me.
Do we do that? Spit that out.
Do we do that?
My house is about choices and consequences.
Did your parents, have the belt?
No, there was actually no real consequence we feared. It was just vague fear that kept us in line. I look back on it and I'm like, I don't know why I was scared of my mother because she never actually did anything that would have caused me to fear it. I just feared the theoretical consequence of disappointing her. And that kept me in line for 18 years. Okay,
my brother and I were terrified of our father. He wasn't in any, my dad, Mayor Lou, but he wasn't abusive in any way, shape, or form. It was like this desperate need to have him approving, but yet we always felt like he could snap and kill us at any moment for the right reasons, metaphorically.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how she did. My mom yelled a little bit, mostly out of running out of patience, not anger. But yeah, it was just, I'm not going to disappoint her. Should I go to that party? Probably not. I mean, what if mom finds out?
Well, we also always saw my dad as like a sleeper agent. He was always very, very calm. And you just knew this Balkan powder keg was ready to hit at any moment if you did something wrong.
Now, is Mayor Lou, as a grandfather, the same guy who raised you?
Yeah, he really is. I mean, my kids aren't afraid of him. My nephew and my two nieces, they worship him. He's a phenomenal grandfather. He's also like Mr. Optimist. He's happy every day. He makes the best of every opportunity. He has no regrets. He just lives his life. He's a consummate example of just being. And he's the bank. So everyone loves him.
Oh, so that, yeah.
All the kids love him. He's the bank.
My dad is pretty consistent, but my mother had a lobotomy when the grandchildren arrived.
Really?
Well, to the point where she'll acknowledge it, because with the grandbaby, she's Didi, and Didi is fun. Didi will buy you ice cream before dinner. Didi buys all the tchotchkes at the checkout at CVS. Don't let Diane come out. And she'll threaten. Okay. I feel Diane coming, and my kid will be like, no, not Diane. I want Didi. What do I have to do to keep Didi?
She like the mayor in Nightmare Before Christmas with the head flips?
A little bit. It's not like an emotive thing. It's just the whole disposition changes and she's disappointed and you're probably going to get sent to bed because that's like her one play with the grandbabies is get in your room.
Do you still have a existential crisis? Like, how the hell am I a parent? Like, who is this thing living with me?
In my head, I'm still 23 and figuring all of this out. And then I look at my real life of like a kindergartner pushing 40 and a house and all of these things. And I'm like, no, maybe we're at cruising altitude. Yeah. Maybe we got to accept that.
Yeah, Jess and I are like, who are these 15-year-old humans that live with us? And why are you here?
These young adults.
Yeah, insane.
Are they learning to drive? Do New York kids do that?
Yes. My father taught me to drive when I was 13.
Okay.
As one did
that feels illegal,
in the late
but
80s.
Okay.
Yeah, mid-80s. We had one of those like Chevy Chase station wagons with the back seat that faced the wrong way that weighed 8,000 pounds with a 7 million ton engine. And I learned to drive on basically the Battlestar Galactica.
Those were the best cars. My first car, and it was old when I got it because I'm a little bit younger than you, was an 89 Pontiac Bonneville.
My mom drove an 89 Bonneville. It was tan.
I'm going to make a reference that I think you're going to get because of an earlier conversation, but you could fit half a drum line in the trunk. You could fit the large bass drum, a snare drum, some cymbals, and a full set of quads.
And the flags, too.
Out the window.
I can't help but notice you said that word there. We going to go full band camp now?
I mean, let's do it.
What was your instrument?
I was pit percussion, marimba, xylophone, vibraphones, so did not march. Did not want to march. If we're being honest and self-aware, couldn't march, but we could run like hell.
Okay.
So you would drag the things out there, you would do your amazing performance, and then you had about 15 seconds to get up. We were a competitive marching band. That's why I'm talking about time limits.
Like football field marching band stuff?
Football field marching band stuff, which we practiced during football games. And then on Saturdays, we would go compete in our 9-minute and 30-second show. So you had to run as fast as you could, just dragging things off the field to clear the end zone before your time ran out.
So I'm a musician. I was a pianist growing up.
That's how I met you. We'll get to that. But
did you also know I was a brass instrumentalist in the marching band for 6 years?
That is very on character sketch for you. I'm going to guess a trumpet.
Baritone horn.
Baritone horn.
Euphonium. Euphonium on the field. Baritone horn in the concert hall.
So our baritones were trombones in school band. And I grew up learning to play the trombone. But I did not want to march a brass instrument.
When I was in 5th grade, it was like they had to throw you an instrument to play here in the city. Like you're learning something, young man, young lady. And I wanted to play the trombone, but I couldn't reach 7th position because my hand was so short. And I felt like I'll never be anyone in life without the trombone. They stuck me with the trumpet. So I learned the trumpet, and then I got to middle school in 6th grade, and they're like, we have enough trumpets. Go learn this now. And then they gave me the baritone horn.
That will do. Yeah, I was similarly, the high school brought in a music teacher to the elementary schools. I went Catholic school, so all very integrated, very poor, but very integrated. And it was probably 4th or 5th grade, and they modeled all the different instruments. And I was like, well, that flute has too many buttons on it. The trombone, that seems forgiving. And so I was
you also kill people with it too.
I was a tiny little thing. I learned to do that. I did not want to march. So I knew how to play piano, so I did pit percussion. My brother, we also had a bad habit of converting everyone to brass instruments just because they're louder. So he wanted to play the bagpipe.
What?
So he can play a bagpipe.
That's like breath control out of beyond
was
humanity.
Maybe 60 pounds soaking wet when he got his bagpipe. So you would find him passed out in the front yard. But that turned to clarinet. And then when he started marching band, he marched clarinet for a year. And then they flipped him to trumpet. No, we all did band. My sister was flags. And my husband was center snare.
Ooh. How polyester were your outfits?
Not a stitch of natural fiber.
Yeah.
I mean, they survived the apocalypse. They survived the mud, the rain.
So my humble brag as a marching band nerd and a band camp marching band nerd was we got to perform in Disney World twice. So Disney World had something back then called the Magic Music Days, where they invited the top marching bands in the country. And good old-fashioned Go Pirates Tottenville High School on Staten Island got chosen 2 years in a row. So we flew down to Orlando, and we got to be backstage at Disney World and see the characters put their heads on and lose our freaking childhood in the process. And then they open the door and you're marching down Main Street at 15 years old. And
we would have loved that.
And that was, Epcot had only been opened a few years at this point, so no one knew it was there. And my God, that is my greatest band camp marching band memory, is marching down Main Street. Not even the parades on Fifth Avenue. We were in Thanksgiving Day Parade, the Columbus Day Parade. But yeah.
We never got to do parades.
No.
We never did parades. I'm going to joke we wouldn't have known how to. We were a competitive marching band. It was 12 hours of band camp the entire month of August, 3 hours a day after school. And on weekends, you would practice 10 hours and then you would drive to wherever the competition was. We had the 9.5-minute halftime show. That is all we did. We have never marched in a parade. We did win the Atlantic Coast Championships Group 3 in was it my sophomore year? So that would have been 2002. It's all on YouTube.
So evidence to the contrary, there's evidence.
Fortunately or unfortunately, I think all 4 of my high school marching band years are on YouTube because someone felt very motivated. And
Long live your social footprint.
I go back and I look at that. I'm like, how are 14-year-olds marching 12 hours a day in Pennsylvania, like summer humidity?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can't believe you didn't do parades.
We did not do parades.
Watching marching band competitions is kind of a guilty pleasure for me, but the black colleges down south, they make it like you're watching a Broadway exposition. I'm like, white people can't do that. This is extraordinary.
White people do drum corps.
Yeah. This is like you're watching a whole, insane. Damn. Wow.
I mean, you're carrying around that gigantic drum and you're dancing.
Like, then there's the guy with the xylophone, like, over your shoulders. Like, how the hell are you doing this?
On beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like the 9 tom-toms, like, weighing you down in the front.
And you jumped. You just did a leap. Like, what was that?
Yeah.
So no, we just kept time.
But it kind of taught you coordination a little bit.
Coordination, group dynamics. I learned more in marching band than any other class in high school. I learned a lot of things, information, but in terms of life skills,
right?
Marching band.
When was the last time you picked up a trombone?
Probably 20 years.
Okay.
I hope it's like riding a bike. Like if you're going to pull one out of the closet here and make me do it, I could probably produce a sound.
You still remember the valve timing and the... Can you play a B-flat scale from heart in your mind?
Oh, maybe in my mind. I could definitely do it like piano or xylophone.
Okay.
Which is a little bit of a cheat.
Fair enough.
Everything's labeled.
I wanted to talk about our first date. Actually, I'll let you talk about our first date.
Yeah, well, because I think my first date with you wouldn't have known we were on a date. So, and I prepared for talking to you. I went back into my Instagram archive to make sure the dates were right, because this was in the days where you put a funny filter on things and no caption. Mm-hmm. So our first date was in the basement of a hotel in Memphis at the AONN conference, and Lily Shockney introduced you, and you played the piano and then gave the opening plenary.
Wow. I remember that.
Like 2013. And I remember sitting in the audience and being like, he is such a badass. I hope I get to work with him one day. And then when I did, you were deeply disappointing.
Well, let's do an acronym button for the listeners. That's the Academy of Oncology Nurse and Patient Navigators.
Yes. They did not have patient in the title.
It was just AONN back then.
And it was mostly just Lily carrying that torch until the rest of the field.
Yeah, and shout out to Lily Shockney, larger than life human being.
Yes.
To say the least.
Incredible.
Big fan.
Big fan.
Why were you at Aon?
I was with a breast cancer charity, an amazing one. We'll talk about them more. And we were one of the resource exhibitors. So we had a ton of print brochures and advertisements for webinars and web content that was highly relevant to breast cancer navigators. And in 2013, I was with Breast Cancer Nonprofit in 2013. We were a resource exhibitor there. We had guides about living with breast cancer. We had webinars. We had web content. And in 2013, most cancer centers were meeting their navigation requirements by only navigating their breast cancer patients. They could get a high enough patient volume. So it was mostly breast cancer navigators at the conference. So we loved to attend and connect with them because we knew they were on the front lines with our patients.
How did you get there in the first place? What drove you to want to work in cancer advocacy?
It looks like a straight line in hindsight, but I'm going to say it was 2009 and 250 job applications later. Mm-hmm. Slightly more strategy to it. When I was in undergrad, I wandered into an ethnography class entirely too junior to be in an ethnography class.
Wait, as one does wander into an ethnography class.
It was said it was for seniors. I was a sophomore and there I was. And I got paired with a graduating senior who was, and did actually do this successfully, shout out to Ashley, going to take a liberal arts humanities degree and turn it into a medical school application. So she was an American Studies major, heading on to get her DO. So all of her focus was on kind of the social dynamics and the stories we tell about health. And this is also something you'd only do in the early 2000s. School liabilities wouldn't let you do this anymore. We wandered off into the wilds of Carlisle, Pennsylvania, which is the portion of the state when you tell the joke that Pennsylvania is Philly on one side, Pittsburgh on the other, and Alabama in the middle. Very much the middle part of the state. We wandered off into people's homes in the evenings, on the weekends, and we interviewed a breast cancer support group. And we went member by member, and we heard all about their stories. And what I remember about those stories is, with the rage that only a 20-year-old feminist can rally, these were women for whom the cancer wasn't the hardest part of the journey. There was a woman who almost died from sepsis after a reconstruction surgery. There was a young woman who had to move back into her mom's trailer and spent her last days fighting terminal cancer, just compulsively ordering things online because she felt she wasn't beautiful enough, dying of cancer. Women who had to start and stop treatment because of access issues. And I remember that feeling of rage of cancer can kill you. And yet the thing that almost killed these women, or did kill these women, was not the science of cancer. It was the social setting in which they could or could not access resources or feel complete and healthy and whole, and did other things, other surgeries that contributed to loss of life, or at least loss of function. And it enraged me. So I did 2 internships in college with breast cancer nonprofits. So I've been in and around this space for 20 years, which is weird because I'm 21. But
you look great.
Did those and thought, I'm going to be a professor. I'm going to teach this stuff. I'm going to study this stuff. I'm going to get a PhD in this stuff. And then the recession, and no PhD offers, or no offers that matched up with my boyfriend. And I said, well, I'll follow you. Married him. He went to Philadelphia to get his PhD. I worked as a bank teller by day. I folded sweaters at J.Crew by night. And I applied for a bunch of jobs and became the receptionist at one of the most amazing national breast cancer organizations. And I was pretty salty about it. I was like, I have a master's degree. Why am I answering the phone? But
wait, bank teller and folding your shirts at J.Crew to the receptionist at Living Beyond Breast Cancer?
To the receptionist at Living Beyond Breast Cancer. And then I would take the bus back into the city to work a night shift at J.Crew.
Wow.
Because I was married to a PhD student. And
paying your dues, kids, paying your dues.
We had to make rent. But I say it is all linear because, one, I still am obsessed with the social context of healthcare and how I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to fix the science of this. How can I change the system into which patients enter care? How can I change the stories we tell about them and what they're entitled to? Are they entitled to scorn? Are they entitled to sympathy? How can I work on those things? And those early experiences kind of set me up for what I do now. Because in banking, retail banking's like, your checking account's overdrawn. We got to fix that. Retail is your butt looks big in those jeans. Can I suggest something else? And now I have to take on bigger things of, we have to change a trial plan. We have to close a trial. We had a trial fail. I still have to talk to people about hard stuff. And so all of that training is really helpful. I have to be quick on my feet. I have to be able to switch from clinical trials to access policy to patient materials to chatting with friends about their big ideas of how we're going to change the world. And I didn't know I was training to be an oncology advocate. I was just paying the bills. But it was an incredible training that I think gave me a core skill set that I hope makes me effective today.
When I first got sucked into this advocacy space, which was like at the heyday of Livestrong. This is, for me, was 5, 6, 7, around that era. And I first met LBBC as one of the Young Adult Alliance partners. I kind of had an odd beef with the name because there was no such thing as Beyond Cancer back then. Everyone just kind of died. And what did that mean? And how do you square that circle with, do I really belong here? But that was exactly the time when they changed, I don't know if it was the National Coalition for Cancer Survivorship or one of the groups. All of a sudden, you are a survivor on the day you're diagnosed. And like, really? What are your thoughts? Because I still think that's a subjective way to think about it.
Yeah. So I need to caveat that my work in this space and my passion for this space doesn't come with personal experience. So
don't apologize for that. That's a good problem to have.
I'm incredibly grateful, but also just saying through the lens of, I think claiming survivor or patient or however you want to label yourself at those different moments is personal. I always thought the idea of calling someone a survivor beginning at diagnosis could be a way to start recognizing that their whole life is not cancer. They are a person with goals and with needs and family relationships and work commitments, and all of those are equally valid to be cared for and managed. And it was pushing back on something conceptually where it's like, well, you're lucky you survived. You should be grateful. You know, you're in pain and you can't have sex and you're bankrupt and your relationships have fallen apart, but you should be grateful you're alive. And what more could you want? And it was a way of being like, actually, you deserve even more care because all of those other things are also happening to you and they should be fixed. You should get support to get back to what life looks like, acknowledging you had or still have cancer.
Let's take a break and we'll come back. I want to continue this because, my God, we need like 9 more hours of show. But I promise you, listeners, it won't be 9 hours. All right. We'll be right back. So when I was running Stupid Cancer, to my comment before the break about never apologize for not being a cancer survivor, I would say 9 out of 10 applicants that were looking to get a job there always ask me, do I have to have cancer to work here? I say, no, that's illegal. And it's probably a good thing to have not on your resume, but yet, bonus, if you have the lived experience. You can't really say that out loud. I just said that out loud. But working at LBBC, most of that staff weren't survivors.
Certainly not at the time that I was there. I think as the staff has grown now, you would see more diversity of breast cancer experiences, caregiving, personal experience, family experience. But no, it was people who were nonprofit professionals, which some people think people in nonprofits don't get paid, which was always weird. I was like, it's a job, but it's people who were professionals at fundraising, at designing programs, at managing a board and individual donors, which are all skill sets that you don't wake up with on day one. So no, it was mostly nonprofit professionals and a lot of leaders who had deep experience in kind of the Philly nonprofit scene.
I feel like your career track at LBBC is very much akin to Louis Anderson in Coming to America. See, now I'm washing lettuce. Soon I'll be on fries, then the grill. Then I'll make assistant manager one day. You were there a while, but you ascended.
I was there for 6.5 years. Mm-hmm. And I refer to them as the family that raised me. I was a little bitty baby professional, early 20s, full of righteous indignation and very little transferable skill. And the amazing thing about, I think, the nonprofit world in general, but certainly being there at that time as they were growing, was if you put your hand up, you could take the work on. And so I answered the phones and I started drafting the grants and I started editing the evaluation process for our conferences, which led to building community outreach programs in the Philly area and writing and getting small grants to do that work. And you just kind of grow organically if you're willing to stick your hand up and say, I'll take that on. And so through that work, I got more and more exposure to the grant writing side of the world, and then more and more exposure to the grantors. And in 2015, I also realized I was getting burned out. I was working on programming for 2 breast cancer subpopulations, and my heart was breaking. I was working on our programming for younger women. So I was meeting women my own age who were having dramatically different life experiences. And I was working on our program for metastatic breast cancer. And at that time, the average survival curve in metastatic breast cancer was 5 years. And I had been there 6. And I was not rebounding between losses. And I would come home crying to my husband. And he was like, you love this space, but this isn't effective. And so I thought I can either burn out and just, do bad work and try to get paid for as long as I can, or I can intentionally say, I adore this space. I love this patient community. I want to do more for them. I need to do it effectively. And so I started reaching out to some of the grant-making partners, saying, what's your job like? And talked to a variety of foundations, of other bigger nonprofits, and pharmaceutical partners. And in 2016, crossed the bridge into pharma land. And I will say until recently was like, I'm a nonprofit person on a weird side quest. But now I'm 10 years into it, and I think I'm actually a life sciences person. Because I look at everything my company does as, are we spending that dollar in a way that improves something for our US patients? Or are we spending that dollar on an easy way to get the work done? And so the ability to influence at scale is just so 90% frustrating, 10% deeply, deeply satisfying when you get a protocol updated, you add navigators to a clinical trial program, you get the right insights on patient marketing materials, and you hear like, I can see myself in that. That makes me feel seen as this rare patient. And those moments are so cool because you're like, yes, we did it. We changed something.
That's a side of the industry that the general public doesn't typically understand or appreciate or is unaware of, is the human benefit of being there. I have a really, really close colleague. She was a pediatric hemonc, and she crossed over to do research in pharma and is now helping 100x more kids than she ever could in clinic. That's a phenomenal story.
Yeah.
So you can look over here and see what's over there, and no one's hands are clean in any industry on this planet. But at the same time, you are tactically scaling what you couldn't have done there with maybe less of the trauma of watching people die every day.
It gave me the separation that I needed from direct service. I love going back to LBBC conferences, to other conferences, and sitting in the patient community and learning from them. And I also appreciate going into big 5-year, disease scientific strategy planning meetings and trying to influence the direction of those conversations. And it is a much better balance for me to not be 100% direct service. That was not a space where I could have been effective long term. I'm too emotional.
I couldn't tell. So fanboying more about living beyond breast cancer, and shout out to Gene Sachs and the incredible leadership that they've had for many years. Again, I'm on the tick box of groups that I really have mad respect for, and their legacy, their OG, they're been around a long time. They were not unapologetic about being edgy. And we can't not talk about the greatest story of all time. The
greatest professional achievement of my life?
Yes.
You mean that one?
Yes. This is the top Mount Rushmore of your LinkedIn profile. I will let you tell the story.
Yes. So America, for the first time ever. I think anyone who's bumped into me professionally has heard this story, but it is, I think, what the kids today would call the butterfly effect. And it is the second date that I had with you. So in our first date, we met at a medical meeting where I was a resource exhibitor. In our second date, I was calling you about what was at the time called the OMG Cancer Summit. And it was at an off-strip hotel in Vegas on like a Tuesday.
Palms Casino.
The Palms Casino. You had to pay to go to the pool because it was a day club.
We negotiated those resort fees hard, though.
I believe you. A little dose of second.
They're illegal now, by the way. No more resort fees.
I didn't know that.
Vegas banned resort fees, yeah.
Fascinating. So I remember I had seen you on stage. You played the piano. You gave an incredibly moving plenary. And I thought, this guy is so cool. Like, we should work with them on this. We have resources for women who are diagnosed before the age of 40. So called you up and was like, hey, man, can we partner on some pre-con activities? And this is probably not a verbatim, but it's probably close, but it was something to the effect of, no, you guys aren't cool enough. Like, you can pay us to do that, but we're not going to work with you.
That sounds like on brand for me for 2012.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was not on brand for me is instead of accepting it, I got mad. And I was like, those jerks. We have amazing resources.
No, that jerk.
That jerk. That jerk. We have amazing resources. And I don't know how this little Catholic school girl arrived at this as the solution. But I went into my leadership's office and I was like, look, they think we're not cool. We know we have spent years interviewing these patient communities, these younger women. We have resources tailored to their needs. We also have a cause-related marketing partner who sells vibrators with our logo on it. I said, what if we call them and see if we can buy 500 of those vibrators at cost and put them in the bags? And so I did. And I called and they were like, who are you? And I was like, well, we're Living Beyond Breast Cancer. We're one of your cause-related partners. You actually have a little purple vibrator. Can I get 500 of them at like your wholesale rate? So we negotiated that. I filled out my little OMG Summit exhibitor form. What are you putting in the bags? I said vibrators. Who calls me? But I think it was Allie.
Allie Ward.
And Allie was like, what are you doing? Children come to this conference. And I was like, oh, excuse me. I can't hear you over how uncool I am. So Allie gets on the phone and she was like, yeah, fair, like touche. Okay, you can't put vibrators in the bag, even though we're at an off-strip casino on a Tuesday. So what I did was I put batteries in the bag, and it was a 2-pack of batteries, and it said, have you heard the buzz about us? And if you came to the booth, you got a vibrator to match your batteries, and you got our new guide to understanding sex and intimacy after breast cancer. And I gave out every one of those vibrators. I gave out every one of those guides. At your closing plenary on sex and intimacy, wouldn't you know, Tamika and Sage had a vibrator and a guide to talk to the audience about it. And that would be a great story if it ended there. But we did it again at another conference and another 500 vibrators. And we did it again at another conference and another 500 vibrators. And the cause-related marketing partner called us. And they were like, hey, friends, why are you ordering 2,000 vibrators? Like, we love it, but just out of curiosity.
Like, what are you doing on a Thursday night?
Yeah, like, you guys never did this. We've been like your partner for years, and now you are. Like, what's changed? And our program VP got on the phone and was like, well, actually, there's huge sexual function side effects from breast cancer. And we have all of these resources on it. And we've had really good experience giving these out. And like, you don't have to choose whether or not you pick it up. Like, everybody gets one. It's been a real equalizer. And this partner, the industry is called Exotic Novelties, was like, that's amazing. We would love for you to like talk to more of our people about this. Why don't you come to the trade show in Las Vegas?
The big porn show?
The Exotic Novelty trade show.
Oh, yeah.
In Las Vegas. And our poor like development coordinator.
God.
Who, God love her.
I don't know the story.
Would flush from her collarbone to her forehead if at the slightest embarrassment had to go to this massive trade show of sex toy vendors in Las Vegas to accept a big check on stage. And it gets better in educating this wholesaler, because they were like, we didn't actually know there were sex issues from cancer. Tell us more. They made a custom line of dilators, which is a sexual rehab product, for us at the time. So they not only had the vibrator, then they had a line of dilators that like you might get prescribed by your pelvic floor therapist as you're recovering from this. And so for several years, they had this line that they would give us some to give out as gifts at conferences. And it went from being this like, I'm going to show you, stupid cancer, to actually like this really productive relationship where actual like sexual recovery education was going into these novelty toy shops for women and their partners to encounter in this non-judgmental space. So
best friends for life. I don't think I know the exact origin story of that, but I knew the story, of course. But man, good for you.
Yeah.
You got balls.
Something like that. I don't know. I think I was beet red for an entire year. But that is one of my prouder moments of like, look at that. I was just trying to get you back, but it actually kind of changed our whole dialogue about recovering from breast cancer and some of the side effects people don't want to talk about.
You mentioned Tamika and Sage for the listeners. That's Tamika Felder and Sage Bolte, two origin story advocates. Tamika is a cervical cancer survivor. Sage Bolte is I think she heads Innova Health now, a storied entrepreneurial therapist, coach, amazing human being. Shout out to those two guys. Has the Dildoverse been canceled, or do they still do that? You happen to know?
I have a little bit lost touch. I know since I left LBBC, I went back to a couple conferences and they were in like the participant raffle bags. So not everybody was getting a sex toy, but they were, the company was still providing some of the sexual rehab resources. So I don't know where that is today. I didn't do that research, but,
all right.
But it was a very nice story arc to kind of.
It's a good way to sunset.
Yeah, and normalize something that is way more common, but kind of untalked about for so many survivors.
I mean, it beats the pink blender bullshit that did nothing.
The pink fracking drill?
Pink fracking drills? Yeah, pink nausea. I used to call it pink nausea.
This is what I wrote my undergrad thesis on.
What, pink nausea?
I called it pink noise.
Okay.
But,
less edgy.
Yeah.
But academic, I get it.
Yeah. But the early 2000s, for our younger listeners who weren't there at the height of both the magazine industry and breast cancer awareness cause-related marketing, if it sat still long enough, it turned pink in October. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's dropped off a little bit.
It has dropped off a lot. And I'm very happy about that because I think the culture caught on to the fact that just because it's pink doesn't mean it helps. And the markup on them doesn't mean anything because they never tell you how much actually goes to anywhere.
Yeah. And that was...
no accountability.
I mean, maybe you read my thesis before I came here, but that was part of it. Was just because it's pink doesn't mean it's part of the solution. Definitely wrote it before I was in nonprofit fundraising. I'm slightly more nuanced now of like, you know, nonprofits need support and corporate partnerships can be incredibly helpful. But at the time, not all of them were.
So bank teller, nonprofit, Big Pharma.
Big Pharma. You forgot J.Crew, but...
well, all right. So retail.
Retail, nonprofit, Big Pharma. Yes.
All right. What's the homogeneity that combines all three that you're best at?
I like to solve problems. And I like to help people come together in a way where they solve problems. And that sounds hokey, but I'll try to give you some examples. Because in retail, it's very much talking to other people, right? Like your job is to be the face of a company and deal with whatever's in front of you. And so
right, and they're right and you're always wrong.
That quote is actually a little different.
Customer
right?
is always right?
The customer is always right in matters of taste.
They button that up.
Yeah, because the full quote is basically like, I can't tell you your shirt is stupid. But yeah, it's gotten reduced to the customer is always right, which leads to absolutely outrageous human interactions. But what I learned in that job was you kind of have to build the relationship in the moment, right? You're trying to figure out how can I build the rapport so that I can understand what you want? Do you actually want a pair of jeans or do you want an outfit because you're going on a first date and you want to feel confident? And maybe jeans aren't the answer to that. But if I'm only stuck on you need jeans, we're just going to have this kind of circular conversation. So how do you figure out what someone actually needs, what the emotion behind that need is? And I did not know I was doing that at 23. I can reflect on it now. Mm-hmm. And then in nonprofit was probably the deeply skill building portion of the job of like, how do you take relationship building and turn it into a financial relationship where a funder feels connected to your work? How do you turn it into a volunteer relationship where someone is giving of their free time because they feel connected to your work or it's part of their recovery? It's part of how they make meaning of this thing that happened to them. And then in Big Pharma, huge learning curve. I'd never been corporate before. I came from a $5 million nonprofit to a global biotech. It was how do I take these values of patient centricity and empathy for the patient and learn the lingo of how a pharmaceutical company makes its decisions so that I can be effective at bringing that patient into the room and changing a decision. And so steep learning curve. But where I am now, it feels really good to be brought in, even sought out by teams of, we want to do this differently. How do we do this differently? How can we not make a problem? How can we actually understand problems and solve them before we put pen to paper? So that's been really exciting. And it's a lot of learning. I love to learn. I don't like being a learner, but I actually love to learn, which is a weird anxiety that I
understand you.
So it feels like it's a constant puzzle. And the better I get at solving the puzzle, the more effective I am and the more I can use this massive machinery to change the way patients experience their care in the U.S.
All right, we're going to move to the AI round. Do you know how I do this now?
I don't know.
You're not listening enough. All right. So I asked ChatGPT one question about you, and then I feed it information about you based on me verbally talking to it and some shit I found on the internet.
Okay.
The question I ask is, if you were a Netflix series, who would your 3 Gen X pop culture soulmates be? Now, you're kind of like millennial, but I put Gen X anyway because you were an older millennial.
I'm an elder millennial, yeah.
Number 1, you're Murphy Brown because you're unapologetically sharp, allergic to spin, and always 3 steps ahead of whatever a guy in the room is trying to mansplain. That's number 1.
That's incredibly flattering.
You're Veronica Sawyer from Heathers because beneath the polished resume is a deeply disaffected truth teller who knows how to weaponize sarcasm for justice and doesn't blink in the face of absurdity. Winona Ryder. And you're Carla Tortelli from Cheers. The patron saint of no bullshit empathy who can read a room, destroy a fool, and still show up for people when it counts, all while slinging zingers like drinks on a double shift.
I aspire to be that quick on my feet with a response. I love Carla.
So ChatGPT for the win. You get to keep this as a souvenir. You may have it.
I love it. So I'm going to give you my millennial quotes on this.
Okay.
Because I am just slightly younger than you, but I would typically say I aspire to be Leslie Knope.
Okay.
But I think I'm actually Liz Lemon.
All right. Parks and Rec and
30 Rock.
30 Rock. I'll allow it. All right. Catherine Cream Henry. We didn't get to your name at all. But Katie, my best friend, my little sister, I adore you. I love you. This has been a long time coming.
I have threatened the vibrator story for years.
Yes. And here we are.
It's arrived.
It is now additionally added to your social footprint.
I know.
Yes.
I know. My coming out story.
Such a great... I love seeing you, hanging out with you. It's a thrill to have you here in the studio. I love you. I adore you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Out of Patience with Matthew Zachary is a production of Matthew Zachary Worldwide. The executive producer is Matthew Zachary. It is mixed and edited by Kyle Moore. If you like the show, ratings and reviews are always welcome wherever you get your podcasts. If you have guest suggestions or would like to learn more about sponsorship opportunities, email podcast@matthewzachary.com. For more information about Matthew Zachary and Matthew Zachary Worldwide, visit matthewzachary.com.